call the meeting to order. And we'll begin as usual, as required, with a roll call of the members. Bob Hassinger,
I'm here.
Bob Carroll,
Yeah.
Mark Clark,
Here.
Ellen Baker, absent. Dave Robbins is here. And we have our guest, Evan Brassard, our town administrator, with us. So we don't have much on the agenda tonight. We don't have many agenda items on tonight, but hopefully we have some, good discussion. Anyway, the first agenda item, as always, is public input. We have no Zoom attendees to provide us with any public input, but if any one of us has something to contribute that qualifies as public input as opposed to something on tonight's agenda, now would be the time. And hearing none. The next agenda item is just a general update from the town administrator. So I know we've got a primary topic here with the IT policy discussion, which is our next agenda item. But if you have anything, Evan, anything for us in the way of just general news and updates that you'd like the committee to know about, now would be the time.
Okay, yeah. So, we're pretty quiet last couple months, IT wise, just kind of normal day-to-day replacement of units or things that broke. One thing that we did since I've last spoke to you is we replaced a air conditioner in our server room that was from, I don't know, probably whenever that server room became a server room. And so we replaced that with a mini split and then just added shelving. And so now we have a place to keep all of our back stock as well as a desk area to keep machines up while we're, wiping them and starting over, doing whatever we're doing. That was just happening in the TA's office in general. So we did that, which has made the room a lot more comfortable to work in as we're trying to clean everything up. As we move into the next couple of months, we're starting to do a little more patch management as far as patch cables go. It's and I've mentioned this before, I've done some of it myself, but there's probably a decade or more worth of different people patching different things in different ways. So we're just trying to work our way through that, label everything, just so the next iteration of IT folks can maybe find things easier.
What a concept.
Yeah, right. And so that's pretty much the majority of what we've done. Nothing really sexy, but stuff that just needs to get done, once we get the other stuff knocked out of the way. So yeah, we've been working on that, and we did set up. We moved a couple of offices, so that just required new access points, and we did a couple more Wi-Fi access points in the building. But again, just kind of regular stuff. Oh, I have one other thing that'll tie in later, but we are working to bolster our multi-factor authentication. Right now it goes to like everybody's phones through the Authenticator app, but we do have some issues with unions and use of private phones and yada yada yada. So we are transitioning some of those folks in those departments to I don't know what they're called, but they're the little
Bob.
fob that rolls over the numbers, 6-digit number every 5 minutes or whatever it is. So we've got, in order to meet compliance with our security or cyber security insurance, we have to have that program rolled out and running by July 1, which we'll be well ahead of, but that's the current deadline we're looking at. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
I remember them using that for a while where I worked with. Goes back a years because I've been retired for 10 years, but before that we had a little, it was a key fob. I think it was an RSA secure ID fob.
yeah, so that's
Change everything.
same thing. I think that a lot of staff will just prefer to keep using the authenticator on their phone so they don't have to carry another thing around. But there are some people that are very concerned about having anything on their phone that isn't something that they put there. So, which it's just Microsoft Authenticator, but you know, we're going to navigate around that. So,
Yeah, Bob Carroll?
Is sending SMS text an option?
it is an option. They also don't like that option.
Because why?
Because the SMS text comes to their private phone.
Yeah, but it's a text message and
I,
there's
I mean,
Yep, we've been round and round on it. The problem is that it's a bargainable issue.
Hmm,
And so it's either pay people a phone stipend to have access to their phone or receive a text message, or go this other route. So we're going to choose to go the other route.
and secret question, that's not
Sure.
a valid factor. Can you do a
The,
secret question?
no, so they want we're following the cybersecurity
From the insurance.
guidelines, and this is the route they want us to take. So
Okay, all right.
yeah, all valid, good ideas, but
no, I can see a point in not wanting to mix personal and business on your personal phone. For some people, that's a definite no-no.
right.
For others, it's, you know, I mean, if you understand the technology well enough, you know, I would consider like the use of Authenticator acceptable myself, but I can understand why someone would want to keep their personal and work lives totally separate.
Right. Yeah. And so for most of our department heads, and a lot of the municipal center, it's not really an issue. It's just going to be a couple of departments that I think will roll those out. So it's not like we're not buying hundreds of those fobs. I think we're probably going to be actually at 25, maybe maximum. So
Yeah, I have no idea what the cost is. I'm just curious to have an idea of what the cost to have them is.
So we are eligible for a $10,000 grant to cover the cost.
Oh,
So our goal is to be under that for the whole project. So
yeah. But is there an ongoing cost?
no, not that we're not already capturing. So because we're already doing MFA, and so it's already built into our contracts and all the rest of it. It's just buying the fob, and then obviously there's some, I guess you'd call it maintenance of the fob, because they'll break, or people will, they'll stop working or something will happen, but pretty minor in the grand scheme of things.
You have to put batteries in them?
Yep, but they last, I think the ones we were just looking at, it's like a 6-year
Oh.
battery. So it's not yeah, not a big not a huge concern.
If I remember right, and again, you know, my experience with this technology is more than 10 years old, but I seem to recall that you know, the fobs have a finite lifetime in terms of, you know, how long you can count on them keeping in sync with the server side.
Yep, there's some and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but there's some requirement of like turning them back over and getting them
Ah,
synced or whatever it is. But it's like a 5-year or 6-year window and when that happens. So
Yeah, I know we were not replacing our fobs. Yeah, like we certainly weren't replacing them every year or two. I think maybe in all the years that I remember using it at work, I might have, you know, it was probably at least 10 years or so. It might have replaced the fob like once in that time.
yeah.
And the MFA, is it at the application level, or where exactly does that come in when you're using Microsoft, right?
Yes. So it's just at login.
The initial login to your machine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do they have local user accounts on their machine, or that's all authenticated through AD?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't know what that means. So it's authenticated when we log in, it prompts you to do your multi-factor, whether you're in network or out of network.
Okay.
If that answers the question.
And so, like, if they're going to use the what's the accounting thing? I forgot the name of it.
Vadar.
Vadar, right? So is that passed through with single sign-on?
It's a single sign-on, but they have their own MFA.
So you have to re-authenticate a different. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And are there any other apps you have to worry about?
Not really. I mean, there's our obviously our Office suite.
But that's all
but
Microsoft, so you're
that's all
good.
Microsoft, so we're good there.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, again, not really. Most all of our stuff now is hosted by someone else. And we follow their security protocol. So, you know, even if you get into a machine, you know, you can't get to the financial software without having a second password and a second MFA login. Same thing with budgeting software. Same thing with Viewpoint, which is our building inspection software, things like that. Most all of it is there, and then our the only other thing we have is some protected, you know, HIPAA type data, which, you know, is backed up offsite, but I don't think we have a separate, like once payroll and benefits gets in, they're in, you know, they're logged into their system. So
Well, we've come a long way since day one of this committee.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah, and we're working with Mark over at
Yeah.
CMD on it. So he's I know a fair amount, but you know, even about 7 minutes into the conversation, I'm behind, and I just say, okay, whatever we need to do, Mark, is good. Yeah. So yeah, we're actually just now starting to work with CMD more at the PD level as well, which is new. We really haven't been doing all that much. They keep a lot of stuff in-house, but
PD as in police department.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that's kind of new too. So I don't know what that'll look like in the next few months, but yeah, we've really started to try to synchronize all of our efforts into one space. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Just as almost a total irrelevancy, but I know a few things about what goes on in the town of Franklin because my kids and grandkids live there, and you know, they're sort of local news guy. He, like, you know, he puts out a frequent, just about an every day an email with, you know, little bits and pieces of news from Franklin. And you know, he's been publishing links to their, you know, various departments' annual reports recently, and he happened to have a link to their information technology department, and he reported their IT department covers both the municipal and the school.
Mhm.
And they actually have it appears they have a person who's actually in the position of an IT director for the whole town. But they're a bigger town. It's just interesting to see how different towns do things sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we have more crossover than we had when I started, just not that level of crossover. So.
Yeah, as some of us on the committee will remember, we made an effort a number of years ago to try to more tightly integrate the school IT and the municipal IT, and for whatever reason that didn't work out. Not that we haven't thought of the idea and tried, but yeah, at the time at least, you know, we really couldn't make it work. But yeah, things change over time, and we never say never.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for Evan before we get into the main topic here? If not, yeah, so we really want to try to kick off a follow-up discussion and work on IT policies of all kinds. So I guess I'll, ask Evan to start with telling us where you're at with it and what you've got for us, and we can talk about what we do with what we have and where we want to go.
Sure. So obviously we're a month off of when I thought I was gonna get you some stuff, but I've been filling the shared folder that I had created for IT committee with some policies that I've gotten from some other communities. Really just to look at kind of what everybody else has, and what, excuse me, what their, level of policy is. So, we were able to get some documents out of Worcester, out of Westboro, and out of Auburn. And then I did get, out of Groton. Mark Haddad was, able to share with me basically every policy that they have, that relates to IT in any way, whether it's a PD policy or a regular town policy. And so I guess our next step would be to take, I think in all reading all of them, the ones that are probably most applicable to Grafton are probably Groton's policies, notwithstanding the PD related to. So I'd like to take those and kind of Graftonize them, and make them a little more modern. One of them relates back to 2014, which is they have a password policy, electronic communications and computer usage, encryption key management policy. Translate fairly well to what we're talking about implementing. Their social media policy, the technology debt disposal guidelines, and the user registration policy. So I
Now,
was thinking,
we have
Yep.
a few policies along those lines.
right. They just haven't been touched in a long time. So what I was contemplating is taking, again, taking what Groton is using, as theirs have been updated more recently than ours, and then obviously taking the salient points of Grafton's existing policy, tying them in, and then just trying to create a more modern kind of IT section of policy. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I had just, I think it was late this afternoon, I took a quick look at that shared folder there and saw that a lot of all those documents have been updated, and just scanning the titles of the documents, I kind of got the impression that the set from Groton covered a lot of the ground that we might ultimately want to cover.
mm,
Some of the others were more traditional acceptable use policies, and which is, that's part of it, but there's a lot more ground that we wanted to ultimately cover with policy. But so I although I didn't have the time to read through any of them, just kind of looks like the set from Groton is going to be very helpful.
yeah, I think so. And I did, although I have not followed back up, I did talk to kind of my TA peer group about getting policies from our surrounding towns that I meet with on a pretty regular basis, which is, Millbury, Northborough, Westboro, uh, not Medway. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of us to get together for coffee a month. So what I need to do is just, again, create a folder and throw it up in our chat and say, can you put all your IT policies in here for me? So we might have more than just Groton to look at, but I do tend to like the way that Mark creates policy, and I think Grafton's policies align generally pretty well.
Yeah, I took a quick look. I can get an exhaustive list, right? A big matrix of, like, all the ones that large enterprises have.
Mhm.
And then that way you could see, because the couple I didn't see that do get a lot of attention now is cloud, right? Cloud
Okay.
policy. And
Yep.
then the Internet of Things, right? Because everything now has a IP address and the wireless capability. So there's usually some policy or a standard around those.
Okay, that would be great to take a look at those.
Yeah, so that way, I mean, not to detract from the ones that you already have, those are necessary too. But
Right.
then, identify any gaps that we foresee and ones that especially, that are evolving.
That would be great too, Bob, because we, in looking at other communities, I don't see any that I've come across that have cloud or Internet of Things. So, that might be just something that municipal government is missing altogether at this point. We are,
And
we're usually 20 years behind where everybody else.
yeah, I think that's one thing, one of the things that, that we can sort of look at, kind of off the top here is just to identify the kinds of policies that we think we need.
Right.
And say what we can see that we already have, that other folks already have, that's helpful. It's also helpful, like you said, Bob, to point out some policies that maybe nobody's got yet, but policies that we either definitely need or ought to seriously think about. But and that's really even before you get into the details of the policies, just what policies ought we to have to cover everything that we need to cover.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, I'll put some more stuff up there. I put a couple samples, but I'll add more and I'll get that matrix. It helps that I'm in the middle of this going through our annual review at work with
Oh,
all of our
perfect.
policies.
Yeah,
So,
fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
so-
it's helpful to have someone who, have a source of information that we don't have to try to, invent everything from first principles.
right, yeah, I mean, they wouldn't share, nor would I share, any of ours, but it does like an inventory, a list of
Mhm.
the ones. And then, there's certainly concepts and common practices that, kind of translate well and, should be used everywhere. The other practice that I see too is usually policies are accompanied by a standard, right?
Mhm.
And the standard is more prescriptive and it lays like a network, right? Have a
Okay.
network policy and then you have network standards, like, how you label your devices, how you provision, patching, configuration, all that stuff for standards, standard images, standard builds, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And again, it may be a little bit, ahead and, expensive, but at least you know that it's out there.
Right, and we can create kind of that roadmap of how to get to some of these places too. We know that obviously our labeling has been all over the map, and we've tried to wrangle that in with our the common way that we're doing it, but it would be great to codify that so that even with a change in vendor or a change in town administrator or however it is, that's just the way it works, right? They could, I get, in theory, they could change it, but it's probably not something that would be changed because you've already got, that framework in place. So,
Yeah, it's like we ought to have it well documented. This is how we do things. This is how we've done things. This is how we do things. This is how we want them to be. Make sure we have some continuity through changes in staff, even through changes in technology. And yeah, so someone can come in and pick up and
Yeah.
without too much trouble figure out what's what and what's where.
I'm gonna put Evan in every naming nomenclature. 30 years from now, people will still have to deal with it. Um,
Yes, we label this port Evan.1.3-4.
Yep. So, yeah, that's about as far as I got. We've been, it's budget season we're into now, and so that's been pretty much driving a lot of our day to day.
Yeah,
So,
for some reason, Evan has to put a budget together.
yeah, and the state decides to change the numbers every 7 days, so.
Yeah, this is one of the challenges in town budgeting
Yeah.
is you you don't know sometimes until after the start of the fiscal year what you're going to get from the state.
Yep. Fun stuff. Love it.
We've had town meetings in August when we had to fix the budget because the state finally came through with their numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I think, I guess, as far as this group is concerned, if we can get, like you were talking about, Bob, the matrix, I think that's a great starting point. And then I can, um, I think the ones that the Groton ones are ones that I think are probably going to be in that matrix, in some form or another. So, I can Graftonize those a little bit, just as a starting point.
Yep. Yeah, do we, and so for what we as a committee can do is obviously, we have access to those documents that you've uploaded. I don't recall off the top of my head, do we have, are all the appropriate relevant town policies for Grafton on the website somewhere?
Yes, my intent is to put them in the folder labeled craft, and I just didn't
Okay.
get, but
Yeah, because obviously
they're all in one spot.
one of the things that we'll be looking at is, well, what does Grafton have now? And of what Grafton has now, what has to change? Probably everything. And and what does Grafton have to add? Probably a lot.
Right.
But anyway, we've got some material now for us to work with. And as you continue to upload stuff to that shared folder there, we can have more to look at. And I don't know how much more we can talk about it this evening, but we've got something to get started on. And we can plan on following up in the discussion at our next meeting if there's enough progress to be discussed.
Yeah, probably should get a template too from looking at these, right? Because there needs to be some sort of revision control. And
Yeah, so I think we can focus on content, and then once we, it doesn't
Right.
have to look like the other policies, then I'll give them to one of our admin that's what they do, is shoehorn that into our format and then make it look like everything else. So,
Yeah,
Right.
right now, I'm not worried about how it's formatted. I'm worried about the information content.
right, we'll wrangle that in. But yeah, I think that we get our thoughts together, and then, like I said, we'll have somebody do that for us and make them look all pretty, and then we'll send them off to the select board once we're satisfied to have them vote them in as policy.
Yeah, and depending on how robust and how much you want to get into this, that looking at the policy statements and what's in there, the control, they should map back to a set of controls, like why you're doing this, right? And those controls are, you're probably going to be using like NIST as the framework and the cybersecurity framework. I know Alan has put up a lot of stuff and shared a lot of stuff on the cybersecurity framework, but all that, because that's where those policy statements are derived from, right? And the controls. So it's not like you just do this XYZ, right? You do this XYZ to reinforce and implement these specific controls from the standards.
And speaking of NIST, I ran across a brief news item the other day that said something to the effect of NIST had come out with an updated set of whatever it was, guidelines or standards or whatever. I don't remember what it was. It was described as some fairly major update from NIST on this
They
topic.
come out with stuff all the time.
So I don't know. Yeah, if it's, I would have to guess that it's probably not, anything radically different or new, just, but yeah, they do update periodically, but yeah,
Right.
for whatever it's worth.
And there's a whole nother framework, CMMC, I think CMMC, that's gaining favor for more government, federal government installations. So that's out there too, but I think that's overkill for this.
No. Okay, it sounds like we've got some homework ahead of us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
and I see the drive. I'm poking around in there, so that's all working good. Awesome.
good. Good.
I think it likes Edge more than Chrome. So
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, all right?
mhm.
All righty. Any questions for Evan? Any other thoughts from anybody?
So
No.
these IT policies, these become public information when they're published, or the ones that are there today are, right? Assuming.
Right.
Okay. All right.
There may be some that we're gonna
Yeah, you don't want
we're not going to make public, and
Yeah,
those
that's kind of what I was getting at. Was like,
Yeah, right.
how
So
do we decide?
government we're gonna have two. I'm assuming we're gonna have two layers of policy by the time we're done. One layer of policy is going to be, the internet usage policy, or what, the things that are kind of benign but direct staff in the organization of how to behave, at their work space. And then there's
Yep.
All the policies that everybody needs to know.
right, and then the ones that are in the background, right, that really only the people doing IT work for the town of Grafton should know. You don't want to publicize how to hack us, right? So
Right.
right, yep. So we'll have to have that second layer, and when we get to those crossroads, we'll have to have conversation about how to do that without making the documents a public document, because that's the other thing that we have to be careful of, because if I email it to all of you, it's now a public document. So we'll have to figure out fun ways to protect the town from those types of things.
Yeah, it's kind of a way to do that though, because like encryption, key management definitely would not want to be put out in public
Right.
domain.
Right. Yep. So we'll navigate that as we go.
Yes, I would presume that other municipalities and other levels of government have the exact same issue in terms of information that is not meant to be public.
Right.
So we shouldn't have to invent that wheel.
No, I'm confident that it already exists. It's just a matter of making sure that we're on top of it as we go.
Yep. All right.
Right. Anything else for me?
Anything else, anybody? I think we're basically done. I think we're basically done with our meeting.
Not quite, but
The
Got
the next agenda item was to review and approve previous meeting minutes, which
Okay.
are unavailable, so we can skip that. We have a potential executive session on our agenda just to cover bases, just in case there is a topic that requires an executive session. I'm not aware of any such tonight. So we will not go into executive session. And unless there is anything else that needs to come before the committee,
I
Make a
move,
motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
aye.
Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank